Hello everyone, so in this video we will see a very prominent condition due to which most of the admissions in a neurology wards are there, that is cerebrovascular diseases, also called as stroke. So it is a very short and crisp video for you to revise everything about this, and even if you are reading it first time, don't worry, you will surely gain a lot. So let's begin with cerebrovascular diseases. So first of all, some basic terms and definition that we need to know. What is a stroke or CVA? Basically, whenever there is a neurological deficit which has occurred abruptly, suddenly, and the cause for this is a particular vascular cause, then it is called as stroke or CVA. Now you can't just name every neurological deficit as stroke. You need to know certain spectrum for that. So what are various spectrums? Basically there is ischemia, there can be infarction, and then there is TIA. What does ischemia means? Basically the blood flow is reduced and this has last for longer than several seconds. If it has further prolonged, this may lead to infarction or death of the brain tissues. Okay, now what are TIA and what is stroke? So TIA is nothing but, as you can know by the word itself, transient. So it means that something is there and then it has quickly come back. Okay, so now the blood flow we have quickly restored, or the situations are now better, and now the neurological symptoms will resolve. So any neurological symptoms and signs which resolve within 24 hours and does not provoke to infarction, then it is called as TIA. Or if it has been more than 24 hours or infarction is demonstrated, it is called as stroke. So I hope these basic terms are clear for you. Now we will see some there are very conditions which can mimic stroke. What are those conditions? Basically seizure. Seizure can mimic stroke. How will we differentiate seizure from stroke? We will go with history and we will see that in history, was there any convulsive activity present? Although there are many complex seizures with no tonic-clonic activity, but still as of now we can see that convulsive activity will surely denote seizure. Certain tumors can also manifest as stroke because of the seizure, hemorrhage or hydrocephalus. Now migraine, this is a very surprising factor. Basically sometimes migraine can develop without head pain, and this is called as acephalic migraine. Now this acephalic migraine, how will you differentiate? So basically in migraine we will see that whatsoever deficit is there, it will migrate slowly across a limb over minutes rather than in seconds it occurs in stroke. So these are just basic points. Now we will focus on pathophysiology and then we will proceed to the core medicine of the stroke. So what is pathophysiology? Basically pathophysiology is nothing but there is occlusion of intracranial vessel. Which vessel is occluded we will see further, but right now if any intracranial vessel is occluded, there is surely reduction in blood flow to the brain. Now what is the ideal normal blood flow to the brain? It is greater than 25 ml per 100 gram tissue per minute. Now we are going towards the worst condition. So if the blood flow is less than 20 for some time, then it is ischemia, but it will not go to infarction unless it is prolonged. Now suppose if the blood flow is less than 16 to 18, then it will cause infarction within an hour, and if it ultimately reduces to 0, there will surely be the death of brain tissue within 4 to 10 minutes. So these are some of the numerical values on which question arises, so you must know them. Now there is a condition known as ischemic penumbra. What is ischemic penumbra? It is nothing but a ischemic tissue with a potential to proceed to infarction. Okay, but it also has the potential to reverse and get back to normal. So hence this is the core area of our interest. What our therapies are, what is the goal of our therapies? To save the tissue from this penumbra to the normal tissue. So this is what you need to know. Now the main pathogenesis is nothing much complex. It is just similar as a necrotic pathway or apoptotic pathway. I hope that Harrison's pathways of necrosis, apoptosis come to your mind. So just we will see in short. Basically what happens that as a necrotic pathway, you know, whenever there is ischemia, then there will be necrosis of the neurons. And why will be there necrosis? Because glucose and oxygen are deprived. Now since glucose is not there, ATP won't be produced. ATP don't produce, so mitochondria failure. Mitochondria have failed. Now ATP is also not there, so the membrane ion pump will stop functioning and the ion balance will disbalance. So now neurons depolarize and ultimately calcium rises. This cellular depolarization also causes glutamate release. Glutamate go to postsynaptic neurons, okay, and that ultimately increases your calcium influx. Ultimately, all of this leads to free radical formation, membrane lipid degeneration, mitochondrial dysfunction, and ultimately leading to catalysis of a cell, damage of a cell, and that overall in the big picture seems to be a stroke. So these are just basic pathways. They are nothing much unique for stroke. They are just necrotic pathway. Also, as we have seen ischemic penumbra, there is lesser degree, okay, of severity as well as ischemia. So it will favor apoptotic programmed cell death. Okay, I hope this is clear. And now one point which is very important clinically as well. Basically, what you need to remember that in a stroke patient, if there is fever or if there is hyperglycemia, these things are very dangerous. So we need to suppress fever and prevent hyperglycemia as much as we can. So I hope this thing is clear to you. Now we will proceed to the core of the stroke, about the stroke and how it manifests. So for that we need to know the classification. Now one of the classification says that stroke can be arterial or venous. Okay, right now we are not focusing on that classification. Basically that classification said that arterial stroke can be further of two type, ischemic and hemorrhagic. So you can see ischemia, there is a block which leads to clot, and in the hemorrhagic basically there is increased pressure in the brain due to hemorrhage. So this is a classification, and in the venous we know CVT. Right now what we are focusing on is classification with respect to circulation. Okay, so now there is two type of circulation with respect to your brain, anterior and posterior circulation. Just a little bit of anatomy. I hope you all remember that the brain is supplied by internal carotid artery and branches comprising the anterior circulation, and vertebrobasilar system is posterior circulation. And there is a third category, that is small vessel disease of either vascular bed, which will be studied in detail later. So now what we need to focus on first is blood supply of the brain. So let me give you a quick system review. Basically, you know, brain blood supply is by carotid as well as vertebrobasilar system. Okay, now carotid system is internal carotid artery, vertebrobasilar system is vertebral and basilar artery. Okay, now internal carotid artery, we are not going detailed into the course. You must be knowing that after common carotid artery where it goes and how it supplies your anterior portion, anterior circulation, and in the posterior circulation you have this vertebral artery and basilar artery, and then all of this leads to a very important memory of the first year, that is circle of Willis. So I hope that is clear. So now you must be knowing what are the branches. So as we can see in the image, the MCA, okay, and the ACA, okay, anterior cerebral artery. So these two are the principal contribution from your internal carotid artery, ACA and MCA, internal carotid artery. Is that okay? Rest anterior choroidal, posterior committing ophthalmic. They are important but not right now in our discussion. So we must know them, and the rest of the parts, you know, comes from your vertebro forms basilar, basilar will further give branches and all this, and then ultimately we will form a circle of Willis. So this is just an overview. I am not going into more fine details. Okay, next thing which you need to know is supply. So you must be knowing that what is all this, these are the levels. So from here spinal cord, the pathways come from spinal cord, medulla, okay, pons, midbrain. Is that cool? So you just need to know the levels. Suppose this is pons level, so what will be the artery supplying the pons? Pontine branches, basilar artery, superior cerebellar artery. So this is the way you will remember the branches and the area supplying. So spinal cord, again as we see the level, anterior spinal and posterior spinal will supply the spinal cord. Okay, medulla, again the same level, ASA, PSA as well as vertebral artery and pica. So vertebral artery as well as your pica, again the medulla level you have to just remember. Then pons, labyrinthine, pontine branches and superior cerebellar artery. Cerebellum, any artery which has cerebellar in between, anterior inferior cerebellar artery, posterior inferior cerebellar artery, SCA. These are supply the cerebellum. Midbrain is supplied by, again I would say suggest you the level, just remember the level, basilar artery, superior cerebellar artery and PCA. Okay, and then ultimately what we desire is this circle of Willis, and all of these arteries as labeled forms the circle of Willis, which I hope you all remember pretty well. And what does not contribute to COV is your middle cerebral artery, because it is quite lateral. So this is what you need to know, circle of Willis is contributed by what artery. Now we will see particularly stroke within anterior circulation. So now I hope that you know what is middle cerebral artery, from where it has came. Okay, so now we will first of all see about this only, middle cerebral artery. So for that, what you need to know right now is this thing. This is your lateral surface of the cerebrum and we are focusing on this. So let's begin. So basically, why are we studying a particular artery? Because we should know that if we have history of a patient, if we have done neurological examination, then further with the MRI and diagnostic criteria, we can see the localize the region of brain dysfunction or which artery is occluded. Okay, so first we should know the area supplied by MCA. So MCA will supply, as you have seen already, the parts of brain supplied by MCA, and the other thing which we need to know is this. So whole of the lateral surface will be supplied by MCA except this strip and this strip. Okay, so this whole area is your pink area is by MCA. Is that okay? So lateral surface except strip, supromedial border ACA, lower temporal occipital PCA. Is that okay? So now you are done with this thing. Okay, now let's further see this thing. What is this? These are basically the branches of MCA. So we will see which branch and what are its supply. So basically this is the picture. Once you have studied MCA in great detail, each artery will be very easily covered. Okay, so MCA stem is basically divided into M1 segment and M2 segment. Now M1 segment gives penetrating branches which are called as lenticulostriate artery, and M2 segment further divides in superior and inferior. Okay, now you need to remember lenticulostriate forms the supplies the major portion. What is the major portion? Major portion of everything: caudate, putamen, globus pallidus, internal capsule, posterior limb. The rest of the parts will be supplied by what? ACA. We will see it further. So these are the things you need to remember for lenticulostriate. And now, as I have told you, you have to supply almost every lobe: frontal, parietal, temporal. Okay, just occipital is left. So now divide it into superior and inferior. In superior fit your frontal, parietal, superior parietal, inferior, and temporal cortex. So in this way you can remember this. Once you have done this, once it is in your minds, now you can easily progress to scenarios possible. So now if there is MCA stem occlusion, so stem occlusion means this is something very dangerous. This will really affect all of them. Okay, this is stem is occluded. So nothing, now you just need to know what are the features. Okay, whenever we will study the scenario, it is just like if we are studying MCA, if we are studying frontal lobe, so frontal lobe, what all things needs to be remember, like your motor cortex, premotor cortex, okay, Broca's area. So all these will contribute to your features. Okay, so now it is, since it is stem occlusion, it will lead to hemiplegia. I hope pyramidal tracts and all that things are clear. We will try to make a revision video on that. We have already made one on tracts. Okay, so the next thing that you need to remember is hemianesthesia. There will be again contralateral hemianesthesia. Also the other feature is contralateral homonymous hemianopia. Okay, now this will spare the macula. Why this will spare the macula? I will tell you later. Right now what you need to remember is basically dominant and non-dominant hemisphere involvement. So if there is dominant hemisphere involvement, then it will lead to global aphasia. Okay, now you must be remembering that aphasia, there is basically Broca's and Wernicke's, both area are involved, and in this way there will be severe effect in the patient. And if non-dominant hemisphere are involved, again the knowledge of cortex is involved in this, and for this the symptoms which you get is anoxognosia, constructional apraxia and neglect. So this is all you need to know about MCA stem. Now superior division of M2 and inferior division of M2. So again I would suggest that superior division, you must know what does the area it supply, and once you are thorough with this, you need not to learn them by heart. So as it supplies to your frontal and superior parietal, again contralateral hemiplegia, Broca's aphasia due to Broca's areas, and then sensory disturbance. Inferior division, there will be no weakness, just Wernicke's aphasia, again focus on the area supplied and where is Wernicke's area. So in this way you can learn whole of the MC and its occlusion symptoms. Now another thing which I want you to know is lacunar stroke. What are lacunar stroke? Basically lacunar stroke is produced in 30 to 300 micrometer vessel. Okay, now this lenticulostriate vessel which I told you is the penetrating branch, its occlusion will lead to lacunar stroke. Okay, and now lacunar stroke, as we saw that it is supplying the posterior internal capsule. Okay, so if it is within the internal capsule, it will present as pure motor stroke, and if ischemia is within the genu of internal capsule, it will cause clumsy hand dysarthria lacunar syndrome, which can again easily remembered by the name itself that the hand will become ataxic and dysarthria will be quite prominent. So this is all you need to know about right now. Actually, lacunar stroke is a detailed topic which we will cover in part 2 by making a short crisp table. With respect to MCA, this much is sufficient. So now we should proceed next ahead, and that is your anterior cerebral artery, ACA. Okay, so let me make it more precise. Now we are seeing this medial surface of the cerebral cortex. So now you can see that major chunk right now is supplied by ACA and PCA. MCA holds a little contribution. So now we are focusing on this thing which is your ACA, and this paracentral lobule is very important. So now ACA, again similar, anterior communicating artery, whatever portion will be proximal to this, it will called as A1 segment. Distal portion will called as A2 segment. Now A1 segment, what is the issue? Basically A1 segment will supply all the A which is left over. See, we have supplied posterior limb of internal capsule there. Here it will be anterior limb. Anterior perforated substance, amygdala and anterior hypothalamus, and caudate mostly supplied there. Here just anterior-inferior part. So again, if you learn a thing, then further things become very easy. Now A2 segment will supply what areas? Motor leg area, sensory area. So very easily you can learn the lesion. Motor gone, so weakness. Sensory loss. Okay. Now this is very important. Sensory motor area, paracentral lobule. Again I would suggest please learn these diagrams pretty well. So paracentral lobule, basically this will lead to a very prominent finding which we know, urinary incontinence. So this is all about A2 segment. A1 segment, nothing much to be learned because due to the rich collateral flow in our brain, this A1 segment occlusion is well tolerated. So we need not to go in details. Now the big artery again, PCA. PCA itself will be covered in second part. Basically PCA has P1 segment, P2 segment similar to ACA. Okay. Now what you need to know is, as we have covered, PCA will supply your midbrain, right? So P1 segment will supply midbrain, subthalamus and thalamus, and P2 will supply medial temporal and occipital, which we left there in MCA. Okay, so these medial temporal and occipital, right now midbrain syndromes are a different topic and they will be covered in part 2 along with imagings. This is just the part 1, so stay tuned. Now subthalamus and thalamus. Okay, so just subthalamus and thalamus mein what you need to remember is basically this P1 segment makes contribution to P1 syndrome. What is P1 syndrome? If there is occlusion in P1 segment or its penetrating branches. What are its penetrating branches? This thalamo-geniculate, parcheron and posterior choroidal artery. So this will all lead to P1 syndrome. Okay, and if thalamo-geniculate artery is occluded, this will cause thalamic Dejerine-Roussy syndrome. Thalamo-geniculate, thalamic Dejerine-Roussy syndrome. What is this? This is a particular type of burning sensation, with burning pain, but with hemisensory loss. And what is need to be keep in mind is this burning pain is not responding to analgesics. What you need to give is anticonvulsants, TCA or carbamazepine. And if artery of Percheron is occluded, it will cause upward gaze paresis, drowsiness and abulia. Posterior choroidal is a different topic. So I hope this thing is clear. Now you know P1, everything about P1. P2, if we talk about P2 syndrome will cause contralateral homonymous hemianopia without macular sparing. Why we are focusing on here? Remembered I told you in MCA. So basically MCA stroke will produce homonymous hemianopia, but it will spare the macula because the calcarine cortex is perfused by P2 segment. Okay, now P2 segment is also gone, so calcarine cortex blood supply gone, so now your macula won't be spared, so this will lead to HH without macular sparing. As well as if the hippocampus is involved, it will lead to memory, because we all know hippocampus has CA1 neurons which have very important role in memory formation, and if splenia is involved, it will lead to alexia without agraphia. So I again suggest you to just study this figure, and then you can eventually remember the area supplied and the lesions. So now if there is a very severe condition called as bilateral P2 occlusion. So now bilateral P2 occlusion will lead to two syndromes. Anton syndrome, it is nothing but cortical blindness. Patient will deny. Basically there is blindness but light reaction is preserved, pupillary light reaction. Now Balint syndrome is a triad sort of oculomotor apraxia, paranopsia and simultaneous agnosia, and this is due to visual association area lesion. So these are just some names of the syndrome which you must be knowing about. Anterior choroidal artery, just in short, again like as we said in ACA, there is good collateral supply. Similarly, it will supply posterior limb of internal capsule, lower part, okay, and posterior limb of internal capsule was already supplied by your MCA, so it is quite well, regulated by MCA and posterior choroidal artery. And even if anterior choroidal artery gets deficit, patient will recover substantially. And if we need to know the occlusion symptoms, so they are again, as you know, hemiplegia, hemisensory loss, and homonymous hemianopia. So again, I would suggest, if you learn MCA in detail, you will learn everything in detail. So this was just a part 1. In part 2, we will see the various treatment strategies, algorithm, diagnostic modalities, as well as brainstem syndrome. So I hope this video helped you in revision, and even if you are reading it for the first time, it gave you a schematic overview of what to read. So please share our efforts, and if you really like this, do not forget to leave some positive comments and press the like button. Thank you. Stay tuned. Stay safe. Stay healthy.